question? Who has a comment?
I will start.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Marwala. It was indeed a very interesting book. I haven't reached the cancer part yet. But on the one hand, it was for me a very uplifting book because it also shows what can be done in a country such as China. The commitment of the government and also all the entrepreneurs in China to really move with the fourth industrial revolution. I've thought for the examples that he gave, for instance, the WeChat example, and how pervasive WeChat became as part of the fabric of China, and that you can basically do anything with WeChat was for me fascinating. But on the other hand, it was also for me, in a sense, a depressing book. And this is where I would like to hear your comment. Particularly when he starts writing about the divide between the haves and the have-nots. And that the fourth industrial revolution could actually lead to a bigger divide within countries such as the US, where you will have the elite and you will have the others, but also then between the countries such as China and the US and a few others who are really well advanced in the fourth industrial revolution, and the other countries that will be staying more and more behind. And that part was for me something that was quite depressing, that we really need to think about carefully, and what does it mean also for our country.
Maybe just to comment about that. We do know that WeChat, I think one of South Africa's companies, also a shareholder, Naspers, is a 33% shareholder. Some people got quite wealthy. So what you were saying is that the paradigm in the Chinese design of this technology is to put everything in one application. And I have quite a few applications, you know. So for example, Uber has Uber Eats. I don't know whether you have ever used Uber Eats. Quite impressive, isn't it? But they make it separate, you know. Facebook, their chatting thing now, I don't even go to it anymore. Isn't it, you know? Because I have to get out of Facebook and go to the chat, you know. So they tend to break things apart, you know, so that you can have an app that will just make you order a taxi, another one that will make you order food, but it's the same company, you know. Whereas in China, you know, you have this application that can do lots of things, you know. And I think, you know, I think consolidation in this regard is much better than breaking it apart. The issue of the haves and the have-nots. You know, he talks about, he was obviously at Carnegie Mellon. And when he was at Carnegie Mellon, there was a professor there called Hans Moravec. You know Hans Moravec? So Hans Moravec was believed that Darwin's theory of evolution is correct. Madiba, the world is not 5,000 years old. We have been here for a very, very long time. You know? Maybe not us, but certainly the world has been here for quite a while. So he said, so Moravec, what he said, if a skill is old, then you can't reverse engineer it so easily. So human beings have been writing only for 6,000 years, but they've been climbing trees for hundreds of thousands of years. Try to build a robot that can climb a tree. You won't succeed. I can tell you that. You know. There is no robot that has fine motor skills to be able to do such a task. You know. But you can be able to create a software that will be able to write and read very, very easily. You know, it's quite an impressive thing. You know. So indeed, you know. So basically, what is happening is that technology is bringing very good things. The first time I went to China, I felt how it is like to be illiterate. I couldn't read any of the signs. I couldn't read any of the signs. In fact, I was warned beforehand that if you wander around out of the hotel, you better have the name of the hotel written in Chinese characters, because nobody will know. Now, when I went now, you have these things, even Google Translate, any Chinese writing, you just put a camera and then you read it in English. It's quite an impressive thing, you know. So that is the good that it is actually giving us. The bad is that we don't know what it is going to do to the world of work. We don't know what it is going to do to our freedoms. You know something called Cambridge Analytica? Yeah. I was at Oxford, and I almost said Oxford Analytica. You know, so we are going to be, you know, we are going to change as people. It's going to change us for the good and for the bad. Unfortunately, many of the lawmakers do not understand this technology to be able to create laws that will protect us. And it's probably the challenge to those of us who are young, that as you move forward, those things, you need to take them into account. So what we have now is that jobs that require human skills will survive. Jobs, if for any task that you want to do, you don't spend more than 1 minute thinking, probably a machine will be able to do that job better than you can. You know. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. This is a very interesting book that you've chosen. I was intrigued by really two major things. One is that the conversation begins with highly technological people asking certain questions, and exactly the same kind of questions being asked by kindergarten children. And that was a very interesting analogy, because this whole idea of artificial intelligence brings about exploration, brings about the sense of wonder, the sense of curiosity that we lose along the way, but young children tend to have those things. So my question being then, how must our learning and the way in which we see the world adapt, so that we start to look at things through the eyes of a young child, rather than the way we are conditioned these days? And then the second part that was very intriguing for me, centers around his own experience on how his shift happened into the world of love and compassion, and all of those humanness kinds of attributions that require for us to reimagine what kind of contributions human beings will make in a world where we have to work alongside artificial intelligence. So let's look at doctors, for example. He uses the example of doctors. Doctors will no longer be the walking encyclopedia of all the kind of diagnostics. You'll just be able to go into a machine and it will give you all your diagnoses. But the compassion, the love, the psychological healing, all of those things will become much more the face of what medicine from a human perspective and a human contribution looks like. By the same token, he speaks of parents being paid to homeschool children, for example. So the kind of adaptive expertise that we have to start to think about as we prepare our students and others for the future that's unknown are things that I think as a university we probably need to start contemplating and thinking about. And then in the African context, Kenya, Brian Dimo at the University of Nairobi, Silicon Savannah, Digital Kenya is a book that's a very good example, are one of the forerunners in which the government is pumping quite a bit of energy into making this world available to its citizens. So for example, M-Pesa is exactly the equivalent of a kind of monetary system where you don't need cash anymore. So I'm wondering to what extent does the African footprint in terms of its identity as Africa then start to play a role as part of this digital world?
Okay. No, thanks. I mean, you raised quite a great deal. The idea of learning children, I'm reminded of, you see, I was born I was brought up in a Lutheran family. And the Lutherans have a tendency, or they still do, they baptize children. And then there is a verse in the Greek Bible, because by the way, the second Testament was originally written in Greek, where they say you must be like a child and be born again. I'm not a religious person. Lindo Kusle, if you think I want to pray for you, I'm not a religious person. But certainly, there are attributes about children that we lose when we grow old. It's very few cultures that maintain that attitude of children. You know, I think one culture that has retained that culture of being very inquisitive like children is probably the Jewish intellectual tradition. You know, it's actually quite strong. I'm quite impressed about that. Just incidentally, a few weeks ago, I got last year. At the end of last year, I got a letter from somebody from a university called the Technion in Israel. Says, I've read all your books and I'm really inspired. I want to, to do a 1 hour, meeting with you so that we can talk about some of the things that you've written about. So I get my secretary to schedule this meeting. So on that day, I came looking forward to having a Skype interview. And this person was in town. For 1 hour, I felt quite bad that I had to make somebody fly all the way, So basically what we are saying is that the fourth industrial revolution requires creativity. And creativity requires us to be like children, where no assumption, no amount of assumption should withstand scrutiny. I'm reminded of a movie that I watched. So they show Max Planck. You should know Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics. And Einstein walking by the lake. And have you watched this one? And then Max Planck says, Professor Einstein, what are you working on? He picked a piece of stone and threw it into the lake. And then Max Planck was very, very, very surprised. He said, are you working on gravitation? By the way, for 300 years, nobody had even attempted to question the validity of the theory of gravity. And of course, we know that Einstein changed it, with his space-time continuum. So what we learn, whatever we learn, the most valuable skills will be the ability to ask questions. Now, in terms of, you're right, work will have to change. If you are taking care of your parents, it's work. There should be tax rebate, or something like that. It's work. It's work, because if it was somebody else doing it, they will be paid to do it. So this will mean that we'll have to really start thinking about what Bill Gates says that we should start taxing robots. Have you ever heard of that? But a robot is a very difficult thing to know. I've been actually trying to write an article on what is a robot. Because in the 80s, when I was still a young man, Lindo Kusle, there was no spell check. There was a typewriter. If you make a mistake, the whole page has to go. And you start again. That's why when you look at theses, they are handwritten. So basically, robotics is all around us. We just don't know about it. When you have a speech recognition system on your phone. That is a robot. You know, how do you tax it outside taxing of the device, VAT on your device, you know. And then one last thing, especially when you talk about the digital Kenya, he talks about this, that China actually was the society that gave us printed money. Yeah. And it seems they will be the first society to move away from printed money. You know, a cashless society. Of course, M-Pesa was probably one of the first, maybe the first cashless economy that was created, where you could be able to use, you know, your mobile credits to be able to buy things and transfer money. So those are all the things that are happening. Now, your question is, where do we come in? I just finished writing an article. Please read it. Or it's going to appear on, I'm just going to quote from it, on City Press this weekend. So what we are trying to do is, what are the business opportunities? What I was trying to answer was, what are the business opportunities for us in the fourth industrial revolution? So one of the first business opportunity I talk about is Google Translate. So I went to Google Translate and see how it actually works. Google Translate does not obey what Hillel, the elder, calls the principle of reciprocity. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When you translate from English to isiZulu, it is more accurate than when you translate from isiZulu to English. Why? Because the person who created that system is a first English speaker. So I went to Google Translate and I gave it isiZulu words. The first word was akwehlanga lungehlanga. What does it mean?
You can say condolences.
It's condolences. Google Translate thinks it means race does not break. Then I gave it another isiZulu expression. Ukwanda ngomlomo, ukwanda ngomlomo, njengembenge. You talk too much. That's what it means. Without any action. Google Translate thinks it means oral increase as a banner. Then I went to another one. Ukushaya ngemfe ipindiwe. What does it mean? You wouldn't know. You know, you come from the urban areas. You know, it means dealing with a person severely. But Google Translate basically thinks it means smoking is repeated again. So there is one of our roles. There is one of our roles. We need to create these devices so that they can be able to understand us. We need to create these technologies, and it can only be done by us, not by somebody from Silicon Valley. It has to, for Google Translate to be able to do this, they probably will have to go to Empangeni and get somebody to be able to do these things. So, and then obviously Google Maps is a classic example of another device that we can be able to use. So there are many business opportunities. The trick is to look around you and see what are the things that are not being done well, and create solutions that will be able to fill in that gap. Yeah.
I'm going to go with the gentleman in the white, and then Prof. Dempsey, and then Daniel, I think. And perhaps we can ask the 3 questions and then you can answer. Okay.
Prof, the interpretation of this book, it's the way you have made it looks, maybe first of all, I read the book and I read it with a whole lot of psychological imbalance, pain and trauma. For the fact that you mentioned PhD here, and I know what is happening with my PhD in the school. But when I was reading this book, relating it with what you are saying, like you download information from a human being only from the 5 senses. Is that really true? Because you can also download information from somebody's feeling, from somebody's attitude, or state of emotional being at a particular time where the person is. So most times when people say, or when somebody is talking, maybe on phone, and the person say, I can't hear you. I'm like, is it you can't hear me or you can't understand me? Because if you speak China or Mandarin, I will hear that you are saying something, but I didn't understand. So most times I like asking people, do you say I can't hear or I don't understand? Or I can see what you have written, but I can't read it. Because somebody can write in Arabic and I can see that you have written something, but I can't read it. So is it that I can't read or I can't see? Or maybe when you're related, I can't see to I can't hear you and I can't understand. Then, talking about the cancer, when I was reading this book, getting towards the cancer side, when I was growing up, I used to think, or maybe before I became educated, I used to think when you say machine, must be a big house, like a big, but come these days, we know that machine can even be a pen, those digital pens that record videos or something. So when I was reading towards that cancer thing, and I related that, the story I was saying there with the technology that is presently being developed in Israel, where in a year's time from now, we should be having a cure to cancer. It's on the record. So I was like, what kind of machine, or I was looking at it then, like, what kind of technology could bring to the cure of cancer, which has been, for the whole years, no medical science have been able to diagnose, probably maybe AIDS, Then, talking about China being the first country that actually brought about money, printed money, I agree with you. And they are also the first country that will bring digital money. From China, you have cryptocurrencies growing up now, even though it has been messing up in the market or something. But that technology actually started from there by Satoshima. Nobody knows him, but that's his name. So I agree on that aspect too, that printed money, that's fiat money, started from China, and digital money will also start from China. So that's just my contribution to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. VC, you said tonight, and we all know that Fourth Industrial Revolution is about creativity, it's inquiring mind. So when I heard about this book, I didn't read it, I downloaded it in Audible, and during December when my husband and I were driving around the country, we listened to it. And what was fascinating was this copycat idea, or what happened. So they really copycat for about 10 or 15 years, they did that with the US. And then they came out with this WeChat 1 cent that is so much better than what they've got in America, where they copycat from, with much more rich information because they've got so much more information. What does that tell us about going back to the children? How should we teach our children? Is there value in copycat, or did it just by chance work for the Chinese?
Myself? Okay. Yeah. Well, Prof, thanks a lot for giving us this opportunity. I guess there are a lot of things we can speak about with reference to the book, but maybe in some of the comments I have in response to the questions, to say that yes, it's great. I remember when we were young, there was this Rubik cube. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that older people couldn't solve, but you find that children could solve it. And if you were trying to look at why that was the case,
could you solve it?
I learned the rules. And I
Not
do
one
so-
side, not one side,
No, no.
4 sides,
Yeah,
the
but
6 sides.
yeah, but the whole thing of the fact that as you grow up, you optimize, and I think it's a necessary process. You don't want to be picking up all the information, so you learn to optimize, and as part of optimizing is that you must lose some things. And as we grow older, as we grow up, we optimize how we get information, how we do things, and in that optimization, we lose other things. You know, if you were looking at the brain science, the fact that even at my age, I can still learn a new language, but I wouldn't learn it as much as a child could, because the child wouldn't count how many times they are listening to something and trying to improve it, but I will. I will say, you know, I'm learning this language, it's taking so long, you know. The child would get into an environment speaking a different language, and they will learn over and over again. So there is I think the issue of optimization is the one that gets us, makes us to lose other things, and we have to lose them by that. The comment I want to make on the book is that as I was reading it, I was listening to him talking about things which machines cannot do. You know, some of those emotions and empathy and so on. I've since learned that actually that is not true as well, because AI is going to be able to do that. AI is going to be able to do it, and how does it do it? AI does it. We had a faculty breakaway session, and there was somebody who was talking about how you could have a screen speaking to you using the eyes and the voice that you're talking about, the emotions in the voice, to actually generate empathy in you, to make you feel that I care. I might not care, but the way I behave, you know, can impart that sense of caring to you who is receiving it. And AI is going to be able to do that. So AI will listen to you, what you're saying, and then speak nicely to you, say, okay, I need to raise my voice now, I need to modulate it and get feedback from you. So the world of things that AI cannot do, it's increasingly getting more and more smaller. And if, you know, so we really need to think about, which is also what I think he was talking about, we really need to think more about the world of work in a different way. Work has always meant importance. I work here, I earn this big money, I drive this kind of car. Now, in that new world where AI is taken over, what actually gives me value? You know, it's no longer going to be those things, because those things want to give me value. Lastly, I just been thinking about this morning. Yeah, I was running this morning, so I thought about it. I think we must realize what AI is. And AI, to maybe explain a bit, it's input into a box, that black box, and output. Yeah, what actually is happening inside there, we do not know. You know, if you want to look at it as an artificial neural network, you look at those connections. The weights and the connections inside there, we do not know. What we do know is the input and the output. So if I teach it to drive, I know that I can put it in and it can take me to where I said it must go. But actually, how it arrives at making those weights, those connections, those, we do not know. And that is where the danger is of AI. Because we are using it for a lot of things now. We are teaching it to do this, teaching it to do that. But we don't really, we know it's training deep learning, it's training these networks, it's getting repeat inputs, data. But the decisions it's actually making, it's something that is not visible to us. We can look at the data and say, wow. So it realizes that somebody who applies for insurance on a Friday is actually somebody who is risky, because people who are not risky are the ones who are applying for insurance on Monday. It can see those connections in the data. We don't know that, but yes, it can see them, but it also sees other things that we are not aware of. And that's where the issue of singularity comes in, to say once AI is at this level, what can it do to us? Can it decide that human beings are no longer useful. They're just actually wasting space. Can we now? But maybe that's another book to look at. I just want to say, but we must realize that it is indeed a black box, that we do not fully know what is happening inside that black box. Thank you.
Okay, let me just, I'm going to move quite quickly. I never realized that actually feelings is probably one way in which we can be able to get information from the brain. But certainly, it's still something that is done by us as human beings. We are not connecting devices to see that this brain activity actually is a representation of pain or something like that, So, but that is quite useful. No, Satoshi is not from China. He's the discoverer of blockchain. Nobody knows where he comes from, but the speculation is that he comes from a time zone somewhere between United States and England. And when they read his code, he sounds like a British guy. Yeah. No, the name actually is Japanese, not Chinese. So now, moving on, is there value in copying? I mean, look, for you to be able to know how to build a software, you will have to build a software. When you first learn how to program, they will give you a code and you will type it. As it is. Probably Daniel, the first code that you wrote.
Everybody writes it.
Yeah. You did not come up with that program, I think, So it also goes with big, if you want to build your own version of Facebook, maybe you should start by building the one that already exists. Because then you know how to do things, and then you can be able to do it. So I think certainly this experience shows that there is value. Now, people are saying that when do we start teaching children when to program? I personally don't think it is important for somebody who is a kid to know how to program in Python. I think it's important for people to know language, verbal skills, very important for programming. 2, mathematical skills, and logic. Because if you have language skills, you have mathematical skills, and you can be able to see you are logical, then the rest is much easier to learn. No, Professor Mashau, we do know how those weights come about. It's called gradient descent. You are basically minimizing the error, it goes down.
You are doing that, but what exactly those connections, but we'll talk one day.
What you are saying is that we do not know what they mean.
Yeah, we cannot look at one of them and be able to change it and know what is the implication of it because of the connectedness of
No, of course.
But what I think is a danger to that is that we are going to be using this technology, just putting it in everything, and yet at the same time but we'll see.
The Europeans have a law called the GDPR law. It basically says that if you are going to use a neural network to decide whether you get a loan or not, you have the right to go to them and say, but why didn't you give me that loan? And if it is all done by a neural network, they will not be able to tell you why.
Yeah.
So it's not transparent. So one big field that is emerging in artificial intelligence is the field of making artificial intelligence transparent. The second field that is emerging in artificial intelligence is something called transfer learning. Because human beings, you can show them a picture of a lion once, and you say, this is a lion. And they will be able to identify all lions they are going to be able to see. Whereas if it is a neural network, you will have to show it pictures of 1,000 lions for it to be able to know that it is a lion. You know, yeah, you have it. It must have multiple examples. So, and it is not able to transfer what it knows to something else. You know, if you train it, if you show it 1,000 lions and say this is a lion, and you go and show it a cat, it wouldn't know that these two things actually belong to the same family. But a human being, it will be able to tell, hey, there's a similarity here, you know. Yeah, I did read a book called Singularity is Here, Kuzeli. It's an old book. So basically the principle of singularity is the point at which machines are going to be more intelligent than human beings. Some people are claiming that we are 10 years away. I think that is an exaggeration. Because what has happened now is that artificial intelligence is able to do specific jobs very, very well. Deep learning is able to play chess better than Kasparov or whoever is the human champion. But the real champion is a machine, not a human being, you know. Or the Go game, the Chinese chess. The DeepMind has actually created a software that is able to do that. But with all those achievements, you are not going to find an artificial intelligent algorithm, one algorithm, that will be able to make you tea, you know, and be able to look outside and tell you that it is raining, please take an umbrella, and be able to drive, and be able to remind you to call your mother during her birthday. You will have to create separate artificial intelligence technique.
So we're all grateful that our Google or Outlook is telling us tomorrow is the 14th of February. And we're going to the shops.
Exactly.
So we don't get shouted at when we get home.
Exactly. So basically those are the issues, you know. Thank you very much for coming. I think this was a good conversation, and I'm looking forward to the further engagement. I will be on the 12th, I will be at Jayas. I'm going to be talking about rationality. Can machines, are machines, intelligent machines more rational than human beings? If you come, you will know the answer. Is rationality, machine rationality subjective? Or is rationality subjective? You know, if you come, you're going to find the answer. And certainly, you know where Jazz is. Thank you very much.